If you've just joined us, you're watching Newslink on DSTV channel 403. Now, in less than 2 months, the ANC will hold its anticipated elective conference. President Cyril Ramaphosa wants to retain his position as party leader, but it won't be a walk in the park. The ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, which has the most delegates, wants former Health Minister Zweli Mkhize to challenge Ramaphosa. For more on this, we're joined by political analyst Zamokuhle Mbandlwa. Zamokuhle, good morning and thank you very much for your time. Just the latest developments. It seems some allies of the president have made peace with not being included on the slate, such as Mdumiseni Ntuli, who is forging ahead and having also received formal endorsements from several branches this weekend in the Eastern Cape, where he spoke at that Oliver Tambo Memorial Lecture. What do you honestly make of this whole conversation of drafting of the slate in the very first place?
Good morning, Fundo, and good morning to your viewers at home. I think this time around, the ANC itself do not know who to elect as the leader of the ANC in the National Executive Committee, because from the beginning of the process, even before the beginning of the processes, they've been playing a finder-finder. It's like a lotto. They're looking for people, but they do not know who to elect and who is relevant. So this is a problem. And I think the main problem that they have at this point is even those who have been invited to speak, to try and speak and make some sense why they are relevant to their positions, they have not been able to say what is it that they are going to do, what change are they going to bring in the ANC. And this is a problem because if people want to take leadership positions, they should be able to easily, they must not struggle to say, we've done 1, 2, and 3, and we want to continue from where we have left. And at this point, all those who want to lead, they do not have something to show. There is no tangible evidence to say, this is what you want to do, or this is what you want to continue to do as leaders of the ANC. And if you look at those who have been nominated, they've been nominated, but the problem in the ANC is that even the president himself at this point, I don't think he knows exactly who are going to be elected. If he comes back, he don't know who's going to be the deputy president, the SG, DSG, and the treasurer, because those are the senior positions that are highly contested in the ANC. And this is a problem.
Could we not say that at the very least, if candidates can start by correctly characterizing the problems that plague South Africa now, that at the very least that alone would be the first tick, and then after that they'll try to craft solutions? But it seems some of them are struggling to establish or characterize properly what are the issues that plague the country.
Yeah, absolutely, Fundo. This is the main problem. And you see, the main problem is those who want to lead, they don't know, or if they know, they don't want to tell the public what is wrong with the current administration, what is wrong with the current leadership of the ANC, and how are they planning to correct the wrongs of the current leadership of the ANC. And I think they are very reserved because they don't want to be seen as people who are speaking bad about other leaders of the ANC, because they are still their comrades, they are still colleagues in the ANC structures. But I think the public is more interested to say, what is it that the current leadership is doing wrong? Those who want to replace the current leadership, what is it that they are going to bring to the ANC? And remember, Fundo, this is the public interest because the ANC is the governing political party. So whoever is elected in the ANC to lead the ANC is likely to become the leader of government and leader of the society. So at this point, I think those who are contesting leadership positions in the ANC should be able to go back and say to the people on the ground, we as the leadership of the ANC have failed 1, 2, and 3 because of so and so. And if you elect us to be members or to be leaders of the ANC in the National Executive Committee, this is what you are going to change in the ANC. And this is what we are going to change should we be elected into the government space. And at this point, they are not doing that. And Fundo, what really becomes more problematic is that there are those who are currently in government who are leading in the NDC, but they are, they are contesting the space, but they are there. Why can't they change? Because they are influential. They are in the senior leadership positions in the NC. Being the member of the NDC means that you can influence the structure and you can influence the service delivery in government, and you can make a change to the society. So what is it that you are going to change if you are the president or deputy president? But you have been there in government and in the structure of the ANC, the NDC but you have not done any change in the society. So there's a problem.
Let's look at the developments from just the Sunday papers alone. We understand there's some sort of concern that the president is not actively campaigning for those on that so-called slate that has been circulated all over social media that many would have seen, although I do know that Derek Hanekom as well as Mondli Ngungubele are saying they actually aren't the authors or crafters of that particular slate at this point, so we don't know where exactly it originates. But nevertheless, there are concerns that even those that appear on that slate are not being campaigned for. What do you make of that decision, perhaps by the president, to say, let everybody campaign for themselves?
Fundo, thank you for that. Let me take you back to what has happened between the former presidents, Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma. You know, the main problem of politicians or political leaders is when leaders want to be distanced from the community or from the members of the ANC on the ground. Once leaders are preoccupied about government and governance issues, they then lose focus on the ground and they lose the support on the ground. Currently, I think we are likely to see something of that similar nature, because if you look at what happened to the former president Thabo Mbeki when he was more in government, making sure that the operations in government are properly taking place. And on the other hand, the former president Jacob Zuma was on the ground, mobilizing members of the ANC, mobilizing the community on the ground, and they've supported him. And in this case, the current president is not on the ground, not mobilizing members of the ANC to vote for him, allow others to mobilize people or members of the ANC on his behalf. And this is a danger in the political space, because you will end up leading yourself, not the population on the ground. And I think those who are currently supporting the current president are not able to convince people enough, because really, if Mfundo, they are able to mobilize and convince people enough on the ground, they should be able to come up with a proper lineup of leadership to say, this is the president, this is the deputy president, and people should rally behind that particular collective. They were not going to struggle to find people who will be the deputy president and all other structure, all other positions in the structure.
Then, with the whole concept of slate politics, does it still have a place within the African National Congress? Because we know that the president and other candidates want nothing to do with it, but one wonders if it's a principled position that they've taken, or they've been left really no choice, because slates, to a certain extent, have thrived in an environment of strongman politics, which seems to no longer exist. We remember the likes of Didi Mabuza, where you'd be hearing that he's consolidated power, and then you'd also have the branches really hardly interrogating the running mate's suitability. They would just vote. Whatever's on the slate, they would just vote. Do you think it still has a place in the ANC of now, where many people really, like you say, want to know, what do you bring to the table if you want to be President Ramaphosa's running mate?
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Fundo. You see, the main problem is that you cannot take away the slate in the political space, because when people are voted in, of course, they mobilize the support from the ground and from members of the ANC, particularly delegates. So you cannot come as an individual contestant who want to lead with a particular perspective. It's not possible in the political space. Of course, they talk bad about slates. They always say they are not part of the slate. But the reality of the matter is there is no way that in a political space a person can just lead alone. And again, if people are combined as a group of leadership, they should have the similar vision, or they should have common visions in place. Because if you have people within the structure who are corrupt, then of course they will disturb the organization, they will disturb the ANC in government also. So this is why I was saying, for the president to say he's not involved in the processes where people are mobilizing other members of the ANC to lead in the NEC, in the top 5, and all other positions in the NEC, then this is a problem on its own.
But it's never worked out.
There will be a situation.
Apologies for interjecting, but if we look at 2017, it never worked out. We didn't have a complete slate.
Yes.
I mean, he had his own preferences. I remember Mena Lady Pando was one of those, and then last minute we heard that Lindiwe Sisulu was now shifting and looking to be his deputy, and we had Didi Mabuza emerging. So in that instance, you end up probably thinking it's kind of futile. really the branches will exercise their right and choose the ones they want, especially in this era. Like we're saying, it seems they want to interrogate some of those that are being mentioned and see if they really are suitable or fit for purpose. We're seeing even with PECs now that a PEC will express their preference, but what's happening in the branches is something completely different to their preference.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. But you see, another problem is you will have a structure which is not stable when you have people from different slates or from different political ideologies or perspectives. For the evidence that you know what has happened in the past national conference where the current the suspended SG was suspended because they were coming from different slates and they have different political ideologies. Besides the cases or the charges that the former SG have, but if you look at the relationship, let's look at the relationship between the structure itself and how they are able to lead the ANC and members on the ground, because ordinarily the members of the ANC, when they are elected to lead in any structure, they should go back to the ground and say, right now we are a structure elected by delegates. We might have different opinions or views before the conference, but now we have been elected. We will work together as a team. We are very eager to unite members of the ANC, and therefore all the slates must be disbanded. They are all members of the ANC, and they must work towards the objectives of the ANC. But we don't see that happening. Another problem is when they are elected from different states, those who are in the NEC, particularly in various top 6 positions, they will go back to the ground. They will never allow their slates to be disbanded because they are the only source of support they have. Because they won't have a support in the NEC. We've seen that happening, and I think this is the main problem of the NC at this point.
So they're beholden to those factions that voted them in. But thank you very much for your insights. It's a very long road ahead. We'll most probably be speaking to you a bit more often now. Thank you very much for your time this morning. That's political analyst Zamokuhle Mbandlwa.